day of their life. And obviously, this is how I thought about Kalahari Kula. And when I thought about Kalahari Kula, I also obviously doing a little bit of my research, and I realized that, our GDP, in terms of manufacturing, we only contribute about 3.7% of our
Okay.
GDP in the manufacturing space. So I was just like, there's such a great opportunity when it comes to manufacturing in our country. And that made me obviously further curious to find out, in terms of our import bills, how much we actually spend as a country in importing products from outside. Because I realized even during our COVID times that, we were struggling to get some of the products because most of our products, we were getting them from outside the country, you know. And I'm like, what is it as a country that we actually manufacture and we can actually produce and allow our people to consume without necessarily being dependent on the next country? We are highly dependent on South Africa, I must say. Most of our products are coming from South Africa. So I realized that there was like a huge import bill in
Yeah.
the beverage, in the food and beverage. We are spending billions and billions as Botswana, bringing in juices and other beverages from outside the country. This is how I really developed a strong interest in getting into the manufacturing space. And obviously, I don't know how God has a way of doing his things. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. I had a right conversation with the right lady who was actually in the manufacturing space, but she was about to relocate to leave our country. She was Zimbabwean, and she was about to relocate to leave our country. And she told me that, what, I had started this beverage company, but she had not really done much into the beverage company, and she wanted to go back to her country, and she was selling the company. And,
Yeah.
the fact that I was already looking into manufacturing and venturing into something else that I would say it's in the food space, that became an opportunity for
Yeah.
me. That is exactly how I bought the company and I took over. But at that point, nothing at all was in place. The only thing that they had was the paper. The paperwork is the only thing that they had in place. But
Yeah.
otherwise, in terms of machinery and all the things like that, I got into the business and I realized, wow, I still have a lot of work to do.
Wow.
And this is how Kalahari Kula was birthed, and it became a project that I got into, and I started to allow myself to grow in it, learn the things that are there in terms of the manufacturing space, educate
Yeah.
myself, go into the necessary offices and find out the relevant information that I need in the manufacturing space. And, there are different programs that the government has also put in place, because even at that time, the government also really realized that as a country, we need to be self-sufficient to a certain extent. And so he
Yeah.
started talking a lot about the manufacturing and started programs and stuff to try and encourage people to get into the manufacturing space. And me being the woman that I am, I started going into offices and knocking in the offices. I've heard the
Yes.
government talk about this manufacturing program. How can I be a part of it? How can I get financing as a young person, as a youth? There are some youth funds that have been set aside for young people who are in entrepreneurship. I started finding
Yeah.
out, how can I get funds as a young person and who is in this kind of a space. And I believe it's an opportunity for me and other young people, because manufacturing would create a lot of employment. It's not something that I
Yes.
can run as an individual. I need a
Yeah.
huge team able to run a successful manufacturing company. But yeah,
In
that's
the,
how I ended up
yeah.
to manufacturing.
But it almost seemed like you were ready for this thing to come to you, because first you studied the business in the university, and then you were in that space where you could information could have gotten to you easily. But then the real work was going to these offices and finding out these fundings and being able to get the fundings and to make it work. So how easy is it for a woman to access funding when it comes to manufacturing? I don't know how Petrocli works in Botswana, but in Nigeria, it's quite a wide margin between women and men. It will be easy for a man to walk into a bank and access a loan, or even the government itself to give loans to a man than it would come to a woman, or even grants, because they would assume that a woman would use most of her money to take care of her family because we're all by nature, not necessarily looking at the fact that the potential of a woman to produce and to do much more is there. How easy was it for you? If you look at it, if you were a man, you men got it better.
It was not easy at all. I must tell you, it was not easy. You know, I think when it comes to business, you really have to, you need to be resilient. You need to believe in the dream that you have. You need to believe in you being capable of actually, I also think there's, you need to see this thing in your mind. You need to see the possibility of it, because it's that one thing. You seeing the possibility of it gives you the courage to wake up and actually knock into offices. You know what? There are times where I would get into offices and you find people, you would get people that are not even warm. They intimidate you with the questions that they ask you. And I must tell you something. A lot of times when you actually get into business, it's not that you understand 100% what exactly you are getting yourself into. A lot of business owners are not experts at the businesses that they've started, but you start up your business and you allow yourself to learn and grow with your business. So I just had to gather courage to get into offices. I tell you, especially with government offices, it's not easy for you to get help. You really need to be a very pushy person. You got to develop a thick skin, because people will say nasty things to you. There are people that will discourage you in the process because they don't see the possibility of that happening. They don't see you being capable of actually doing what you want to do. You tell them that you want to start a manufacturing and everyone is just, I like something that you mentioned as you were writing your post on Facebook advertising this interview of ours. It's a lot of people assume when you speak manufacturing, that should be for a certain caliber of people. It's for people that have the money, that are rich and that can afford. It's for people of certain names, it's for, and it's more obviously for the male, for the gender, for the male gender, who can actually get into such spaces. So people look at you with, they say things looking really down at you. They just try and discourage you. They'll say, they'll give you all the negative feedback. Oh, people never succeed. Manufacturing is difficult. You need a lot of money, But you know what? I have learned with all my businesses that I've started is you have what it takes, and the little that you have is enough for you to get you started. And I believe that when it comes to business, it's when you take that one step, it's like God somehow moves things on your behalf. So it's like this whole thing of when you take a step and he takes 10 steps more towards you. I feel like every time you sit back and it's just a dream and you're not even doing anything about it, nothing happens. That money that you're looking for that business will not come, because you're just sitting there and it's like a wish,
That's
but the minute you take a step, you are going into offices, you are knocking, it's like you are releasing it to the atmosphere that I need money for this business. As you keep going into offices and find out I need funds, I hear that there are youth funds, because this is what I did with the youth funds last year. I was like, you know what, I'm about to reach my cutoff age for youth, for qualifying for youth fund. I should now try and go and apply for this youth fund. Being in manufacturing, I definitely need a lot more than what the youth fund was going to be giving us per individual. But I was like, but that money will definitely be able to push me a little bit somewhere.
Yeah.
I might be able to get one or two of the machineries that I need with that youth
Yeah.
fund. So what did I have to do? I had to start going to the offices and find out, okay, how do I qualify? First of all, I went to that Ministry of Youth office and I told them that I'm
Mm-hmm.
running a beverage manufacturing company. For me, I want to come and apply. I'm not applying as a startup, I'm applying as an already existing company. This is what I have
Mm-hmm.
so far. How can I, obviously, to get advice before I already get
Yes.
into knowing what to do. So the gentleman assisted me. They gave me advice on what I needed to do, the documents that I needed to gather, and everything that I needed to do. So after getting all that information, I obviously had to go sit back and compile my things. I realized that opportunities may be out there for us, but a lot of times it's the process in between that's the most
Yes.
difficult. That's
So
the
true.
one thing that actually gets people to
Mm.
fall out trying to pursue their dreams.
Yes.
It sounds easy when the government says, we've got funds for young people. Can you go and apply? It
Oh, I
sounds
can tell you that.
it sounds like, I'm just gonna go there and register
There's
and form
money.
and then
Take.
get my fund. But it's the process. I remember I struggle with writing business proposal, like a business plan, right? Putting
Yeah.
together that business plan was not so easy. For you to engage a professional to write a business plan for you, they're going to charge you about 6,000 pula or above, which is a lot of money. And I'm
Wow.
trying to put together this business proposal. I'm not the very best at my writing. And then I had to what do I do? Talk to the people that know, get advice. That's what I've learned in my journey. Learn to talk to people, learn to ask for help. It's
Yeah.
important. Learn to ask for help. I started talking to people. I'm putting together a business plan for my youth fund request. Can you please assist me? I get advice. I looked for people that had qualified for some funds a couple of years back who gave me a little bit of tips and that and that. And I put together my proposal. I gave it to somebody to look at it before I could submit it. But I mean, it was a whole lot of work. I had nights where I'd sleep around 3 a.m. doing the
Wow.
paperwork. There are times where I would be getting home late, because I'm just working on stuff, and it's I must say it's not easy. It is not
Yeah.
easy, but you just gotta be willing to push through. Push through.
Yeah.
Be willing to knock the doors, be willing to push through into the doors, because some doors are not going to open up at a first knock. You have to
Mm-hmm.
keep coming and keep coming up until they get tired of you. You have to keep coming. So sometimes you will not get a yes in the first year. You won't get a
Yeah.
yes in the second year, but eventually, if you don't give up and you believe in what you're trying to do, you will eventually get a yes, which I did. I got a yes and I got my funding, and I'm still here working on my business.
Okay. All right. So the next thing would be your finding the product. You of course that by getting you have the machinery which you got through some business because you had to sit down with the lady to do a business to release the equipment to you. Now you have to find the raw products, the raw materials to use. How easy is that to get in Botswana? Do you need to go to the farmers, or do you go to the farm and buy after the traders have bought, which would be more expensive? Or do you need to go to the farms? Do you need to go to the industries to get your containers to put your product? How do you go about it? I'm asking this question because a lot of times I bake, and so what I do is when I began, I could buy in little packs, in little measures, but as I grew, I realized I had to go and get bigger measures or sacks and bags of produce and things that I would need in larger quantities. And I realized that my overhead reduced because now I'm buying in bulk and so on and so forth. So women would think if I go to the markets where everybody is at and I just can buy the one I need for today or for this week, it will be okay. They do that continually. And the thought of going to the bigger market to go and get the produce or the raw materials from the manufacturers, from the farmers, may seem, oh, so tedious. It wouldn't, what's the difference? What has been your experience? Has it been easy? Do you need to go to that length to get your raw materials so your overhead will be less?
Yeah. Okay, so obviously when I started off, I was always buying smaller quantities,
Yeah.
so I actually had a lot of overheads as well because I would have produce that's enough for a couple of 300 of my bottles or something like that.
Yeah.
And when it's almost done or when it's finished, that's when I go and get another one, just like that. And with time, I did realize that, you know what, this is actually more costly than if I were to look for actually places where I can buy at in bulk. It becomes way cheaper for you if you are buying in bulk rather than when you're just buying smaller quantities and individuals. It's easier to negotiate a discount when you're buying much more than when you're buying just a little bit more. So yeah, that's something that I used to do. I used to buy most of my raw material here locally in Botswana, you
Yeah.
know locally here in Botswana. And it was quite expensive for me up until I had to cross the borders and go to South Africa. And I was able to source some of the factories where I could buy some of the raw materials that I'm looking for. Uh,
Yeah.
Probably when I get to a point when I'm now using indigenous stuff, I'll be going to the farmers directly. It
Yeah.
always helps to go to the farmers directly. You'll definitely get your things cheaper when you're buying from the farmers directly. So with me right now, I'm currently buying most of my raw material from South Africa. I
Okay.
tried to bring in some of the other raw materials that I needed from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was also it was cheaper for me to do that, but
Yeah.
the logistics were a bit more complex than South Africa. So I decided I would stick to South Africa rather than things. So when you actually, I think it's always okay. You scale yourself. If you know that you are
Yeah.
working in smaller quantities, you can look at how much you can be buying. You can still buy in bulk from your local market and things like that. But as you now increase your production rate, I think you might want to look into going straight to the manufacturers and buying directly from them, going to a place where you can even negotiate discounts when buying more volumes or more bulks, going to companies where you can even open up an account, like a month, a 30-day account, and it makes it more easier for you when you are
Yeah.
then running. And you will never have to worry about any of your raw material running out when you are working on a 30-day account or when you are buying. So you build a relationship with your supplier. And
Yeah.
I think once you have a relationship with your supplier, you will never have a problem in terms of raw materials.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who are just joining us, Thando is manufacturing or is a manufacturer who has a brand called Kalahari Kula. Now, tell me more about the flavors and the way the drink is, and how the origin of the drink is. Was it an indigenous drink, or you came up with the whole idea of it?
Okay, so the drink of it, it's not an indigenous like I mentioned. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to that. So we do have concentrate that we use. So we've got juice nectars. Like I said, we've got your guava, your mango and orange, your orange juice, we've got your apple juice, we've got all the flavors that you can think of. We do have those. And so yeah, we produce our juices. Like I'm saying, we get our raw material from South Africa, and then we
Yeah.
just come and process and produce from where we are this side. We also produce still water, obviously, because as we are doing beverages, we deal with water. It only made sense that we include still water. So we do with still water as well. We also produce ice lollies, what we call ice pops this side. The kids love ice pops, So yeah, we also have ice pops that we sell even from this side.
Okay. Oh wow, that's quite wide. Looking at one source of a product that can do several things at the same time, that makes a lot of sense to do that. Okay, so how do you manage your staff? One of the things I know is people move from place to place, looking for newer jobs opportunities, higher pays, and the rest of it. And it's not the easiest for you as a manufacturer to have these kinds of things. How do you manage your staff? How do you deal with having to keep people consistent on their job?
Yeah. Um, well, that's actually a very it's a very tricky one, right? The good thing is that ever since we started, we've never really lost any. We don't have a lot of staff,
Okay.
Currently, we don't have a lot of staff. I think we're about four. And it's been working out quite well. Most of our machines are automated. Some are
Yeah.
semi-automated. So obviously, we do. I've got two ladies and two gentlemen,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's been very good. I think what you do really is sell the vision, let the stuff, because I think for me, the beauty about my stuff is that I've had those that started with me from the beginning, and they have
Yeah.
seen us evolve slowly. And this gives
Yeah.
them hope. They are really seeing that, you know what, this is one company that is coming up, and
Yeah.
obviously people would want to stick around and grow with the company because they are
Yeah.
seeing uh the all this evolving that is taking place in the company. They see
Yeah.
me running up and down and getting opportunities and bringing this and this, and they're really like trying to lead them in a way that they see that this leader of ours has a direction. She has a vision. She has a place where she wants to go. And I think
Yeah.
because of that, it makes them want to stick around to see where we are going with this vision. And also, what I'm loving about them is I see how the willingness to really carry out this vision. Because, when you're starting off as a small company in the beginning, you find yourselves doing almost everything. So
Yes.
somebody would be hired for this particular
Yeah.
thing, but they find themselves,
Do multiple things.
doing multiple things. But for
Yeah.
me, what I'm loving is just you see how people do everything that they do with their all. Even on days where we probably have an order that we need to supply by tomorrow morning, and people know that 5 o'clock we are knocking off, but they know we are not done with that. There's just that willingness for people to continue so that we can be able to meet our supply. So, and also it's really just creating that environment for them that makes, where they know that they can talk to me, they give me ideas.
Okay.
Sometimes before I implement stuff, I'll be like, you know what, guys, I'm thinking of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you think? So I've got other people that I actually sit down with before I roll out some of the things that I want to do, to find out, what do you guys think about this? And I allow them to give advice. I allow them to think outside the box, because I
Right.
don't want to be with people who are not proactive. I don't want to think to be with people that would not, so I always want to take that out of them and show them that they are allowed to actually think outside the box, to
Yeah.
try and make me being the visionary does not mean that I know everything.
Sure.
So I need them to know that. And I like that because we then have a relationship where it's not so much on madam I don't know how to put it.
Yeah.
Like when madam is
Boss,
there, we can't
boss
even
servant.
I don't do
Yeah,
that.
I guess
I
it.
don't
Yeah.
do that. I
Yeah.
they know that when it's time for business and I'm in business, I do mean business, but they know that
Yes.
we have moments where we can really just laugh, and I allow them to really just pour out and tell me what they think, what they suggest and stuff, it creates an environment where they are also looking forward to growing with the company, because they are seeing that, you know what, this seems like a progressive company.
Okay. So what is the future in exports? Are we going to see Kalahari Kula in Nigeria anytime soon? Or are you going to stick to South Africa and the rest of that area? Or are we going to see it on our tables very soon?
Yeah.
Are there plans for export?
You know what? This is just the beginning. Just like that, I'm here having an interview with you and you're in Nigeria. Definitely, I'm optimistic of the fact that we will.
So how easy? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Very soon.
Okay. Okay, Thando, when she comes back, I would have to ask her how easy it is for export to happen from Botswana. In Nigeria, we have a lot of red tapes and all kinds for you to get your goods and services out, and also to these countries, because we do have a lot of concerns in these areas. Okay, Kola Wale, Pastor Kola Wale Longe, thank you for joining us, and Orina Kwate, thank you for joining us also. So I'm hoping that the network will get back on end and we'll continue the program. Do you have a question for her as the woman in manufacturing? Even if you're watching this show afterward, I would ask you to leave the comment. She will read it and she would answer you, and she would let you know what you can do as a manufacturer to be able to excel in what area you're doing. Several times I sit back. I know a young lady in Lagos who started by selling just to her neighbors. She was making kunun aya. She grew up in Kaduna and relocated to Lagos, and she was making kunun aya and she was selling around the neighborhood. And after a while, it began to sell so much. The people who had restaurants around her, she advertised them and she was selling. Of late, I heard that she saw a gym around her area and she's supplying, because of course people know that it helps give people energy. It's everything they advertise about it is true, and so she's moving forward. When I heard about her profit per year, when I heard about her profit per month, when I heard her profit per week, and where she's going to, I said to myself, this girl needs to get equipment and work, So, Tando, I'm waiting for you. I'm hoping, okay, yeah, there you are.
So sorry.
No problem. Yeah. So talking about export and taking it to other places. And do you think that there are red tapes in Botswana that would probably give you problem in exports? We have a lot of red tapes in Nigeria. We have a lot of things you need to go through, stress, as we call it, to export. But that is not just the problem. It's the fact that we do not have a very good reputation also in the international fields as it concerns export. And so if someone wants to export a product from Nigeria, it's really, you probably would have to be under already a known brand, and will go through a lot of testing as it concerns on the other side of it. How easy is it for you to do export from Botswana? Are there red tapes? Are there incentive by the government to help with exports?
Yeah, I think exports is definitely not easy. Even here, you have to, like you mentioned, you have to go through a lot of testing. There are a lot of quality processes and stuff like that. So the certification process, I definitely have gone ahead to find out, because to find out how one can eventually get to export products, because I am looking forward to exporting at a later stage, right? So I've gone through to find out what it takes for one to eventually get to export. It's the certification process is not easy. It's not easy. So there's definitely you have to go through a lot of process for them to come and certify your product, whether the quality is right and everything is right for it to get to be exported. But the government does help the local manufacturers. in terms of processing the certification. That's how we have an organization here in Botswana called Leah. I had to register my company with Leah because it's one of the companies that also would. It's an organization also that would help me in terms of. Getting my product to a point where it can reach a quality or reach a point where it can be certified to actually export my product. So exporting is not an easy. I mean, different markets have different requirements and different regulations, different, there are different policies that really govern a lot of things when it comes to, so it really takes a whole lot for a company to get to a point where it can export. But it's definitely something that is doable. And I believe that in future, we'll get to a point where we will be able to export? I get that question a lot. Every time when people talk to me, are you thinking of exporting? Are you thinking? I've heard that Zambia is always asking, when are you bringing your
We're just
product to
nudging
India?
you in the right direction.
When are you bringing your product to such and such a place? So I definitely look forward to a point where I will get to export. And for you to get to a point of export, you should be able to produce certain volumes as well.
Yes.
Because you can't be there producing 2,000 units or 3,000 a month, and then you want to consider export. So I think I'm a believer of gradual growth, step-by-step process. You reach your local market, get your product to the next region in your country, get your product to the other region in your country, slowly but surely get your name out there, and then eventually you can get yourself to a point where you can now take your product outside the country. But for now, we are serving our country. So, but soon enough, we'll definitely get to export our products.
Okay. Thando, I'd like to thank you for joining me. I must say, like I said on my write-up, you're a woman who's knocked down the door and you're taking a place at the table with other manufacturers, whether men or women. You are sitting at the table and you represent for me one of us, regardless of where you are. If you can go, you're going to use any example. We're going to use you as an example of someone who's done that, and other women, young women especially, can follow suit to do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Botswana when I come. It's my dream, one of my dream getaways. I'm looking forward to coming to Botswana, and I will have a taste of Kalahari Kula.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for
for
the
joining me.
opportunity.
No problem. I hope that I'll be able to invite you for further discussion anytime we have a reason to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm definitely looking forward to joining you again. And thank you for having me. And we look forward to having you in Botswana. Trust me, we are ready to host.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay, that's my guest, Thando Silongo. She is an amazing young lady doing several things. I like to encourage you out there, no matter what you're producing. I know I buy my bleach from a young lady who produces bleach. I buy my soaps. I try to encourage them. I'm just one person. But if you know that you can do like little manufacturing, little machines for staff, already some of you are running with 6 or 10 staff. But it's all been done with the hand. If you can move it to next level, move toward it. There's funding in the Bank of Industry. There's funding in the government. Somewhere in CBN, there's funding. Find out about them. Go to the offices. Knock the doors. I like the fact that she was persistent and going back until it was tired of her. The no's would come, but you would do better by knocking down the doors and getting yourself moving forward. And if you look at it, if you put your produce or your products, your end product, whether it's your Zobo, your drinks, and you put it in any plastic or recycled plastic versus someone who manufactures and puts in a ready-made plastic. Of course, would go, we have a mentality of being colonized, going for the foreign things. Please go for the ones produced in your country. Let's reduce our import bills and make our countries, like she's making Botswana, one woman at a time, greater and helping the economy grow. Thank you for joining me on She Talk today. Tomorrow is our DNA investigation We're talking more about DNA and the importance of it in our society today. It is brought to you by Bioscience Limited, and I hope that you would join me then. Thank you very much and have a lovely afternoon. See you. Bye.